So before Diwali, we have studied about the telome theory. And in the telome theory, in detail, we have elaborated how the rhinia-like plant got converted into the very advanced vascularized pteridophytes, right? And how this evolution takes place. For that, we have considered the five evolutionary processes. And through these five evolutionary processes, we understand that how the rhinia-like typical ancient plant got converted into the most advanced vascularized plants, so which now today we call them as a pteridophytes. Okay, that is the vascular plants, the first vascular plants which are came out of the aquatic habitat, right? Now in this second theory, which is called as the initiation theory, this also deals with the evolution of the pteridophytes, which specifically points towards the microphylous leaves, because you already know in the telome theory we find the drawback that it cannot explain how the microphylous leaves has evolved in the pteridophytes. But this initiation theory is typically there to explain how these leaves may have got originated in this particular group of pteridophytes. So in this particular video lecture, we are going to focus on the initiation theory. Okay, going towards the initiation theory, let's consider it is our syllabus, that is the paper 1, and chapter 2, we are dealing with the chapter 2, that is called as the cryptogams. Here we are at the pteridophytes. Okay, we have to study its structure and the reproduction, and that too from the evolutionary viewpoint. After that, at last, we have to study its ecological as well as the economic importance. Okay, now let us consider the initiation theory. Now see, the initiation theory was proposed by the F.O. Bower. Okay, now, and this name is not new to you. Many times we have discussed this particular scientist. Okay, so this particular initiation theory was given by the F.O. Bower, and it is also related with the phylogenetic origin of the leaves. Okay, whatever the leaves which we find today in the pteridophytes, about its phylogenetic origin, this initiation theory is related. Okay, this initiation theory particularly explains how these leaves which are found in the pteridophytes have got originated during the process of evolution. Now the initiation theory seems to be more convincing than the telome theory in explaining the origin of microphylous leaves. Just we have compared the initiation theory and the telome theory. The telome theory actually fails to explain the origin of the microphylous leaves in the pteridophytes. Okay, but the initiation theory, this particular initiation theory which is given by the F.O. Bower, it is more convincing when you compare this theory with the telome theory, because its explanation is more relatable while discussing the origin of microphylous leaves in the pteridophytes. As you already know, this is the rhinia. Okay, and this rhinia plant does not show the well-developed leaves. So how the leaves are got originated, this is the question in the pteridophytes. Okay, because as you know, in the earlier groups like the bryophytes and the algae, you do not find the leaves. But suddenly after that, after the algae and the bryophyte, we find the rhinia-like plant, and after the rhinia-like plant, we find the most advanced pteridophytes, right? So from where these leaves came from, this is the basic question. How the thallus which is present in the bryophyte got converted into the leaves. Okay, so for explaining this, we have the telome theory, we have the initiation theory, but the initiation theory is comparatively more convincing as compared to the telome theory when it comes to explaining how the microphylous leaves are got originated in the pteridophytes. Okay, now consider, according to this initiation theory, the microphyls, that is the small leaves. Okay, as you already know, in the introductory lecture we have studied about the two types of leaves in the pteridophytes, the megaphylous leaves and the microphylous leaves. The megaphylous leaves are the larger leaves, while the microphylous leaves are the smaller leaves. Okay, so according to this initiation theory, the microphylous leaves were initiated as non-vascularized spine-like outgrowths called initiation. Now see what it is telling us. According to initiation theory, whatever the microphyls we find today in the pteridophytes, they were originally initiated as a non-vascularized spine-like structure. Now, what is meant by it? Non-vascularized. Okay, non-vascularized means they do not have any vascular connection. That is, xylem and phloem were typically absent in these structures in its earlier form. So, whatever the microphyls are there, they were non-vascularized and they were spine-like outgrowths on the main axis. As you can see, this is the main axis of the rhinia, and the spine-like outgrowths were there on these particular axis of the rhinia, and these spine-like outgrowths were non-vascularized. That is, they do not have any vascular connection. That is, they do not show the presence of xylem and phloem. But later, somehow in the process of the evolution, they acquired the vascular system, that is the xylem and phloem. Okay, now see, according to this initiation theory, the microphyls were earlier initiated as a non-vascularized spine-like outgrowths, and these spine-like outgrowths were called as the initiations. Okay, what it is called as? It is called as initiation, and that is why this theory is famously called as the initiation theory, because whatever the axis is there and the small spine-like outgrowths were there which are non-vascularized, these are small spine-like outgrowth which do not have any vascular connection, these are referred to as the initiation, and that is why this theory is called as the initiation theory. Okay, on the shoots of the primitive vascular plants. Okay, so literally rhinia-like plants, when we call the rhinia, we know it's an vascular plant, it possesses the well developed xylem and phloem in its body, right? Xylem and phloem were there, and that is why we consider them as a vascular plants. But this xylem and phloem is only present in their main axis. Okay, earlier primitive vascular plants, whatever there, they show the presence of xylem and phloem only in their axis. And according to Initian theory, this vascularized connection are not extended to the microphallus leaves. Actually, the microphylls were originated as a non-vascularized structure, as a spine-like outgrowth, which is called as the ination. And from this ination, today we call that as a microphallus leaves were evolved. This is according to the ination theory, which is given by the F.O. Boer. Okay, so what is the central line in the ination theory? According to the ination theory, the whatever the earlier vascularized pteridophytes were there, these earlier vascular or primitive vascular plants has given rise the spine-like outgrowths on the stem. And these are spine-like outgrowths which do not have vascular connection, and these non-vascularized spine-like outgrowths were called as the inations. Okay, now consider the spine-like inations were not arranged in a definite pattern. That is, it does not have any definite pattern. Just like today we find the different types of phyllotaxy in the different types of plant, but these spines were not arranged in any particular pattern. That is, they do not show any definite pattern. They are coming randomly on the axis. Whatever the main axis is there, on this main axis they were coming randomly. They do not show any definite pattern. So these inations are not found in a pattern, but they are arranged in a random way. Okay, now initially the tooth-like inations were arranged in a vertical rows on the opposite sides on the axis. For example, we have the examples from the fossil record. That is, these plants are showing the inations which are present on the opposite side like this. Okay, in a opposite fashion they were arranged. Okay, opposite sides in the vertical rows. So whatever the spine-like, tooth-like inations were there, they were arranged opposite to each other, and this can be found from the fossil records. For example, whatever the Crenanticulialis fossil is there, this fossil showing this opposite type of presence of inations on the main axis. Okay, so the spine-like outgrowths, whatever the spine-like outgrowths were there earlier, they do not show any definite pattern, and whatever we have from the fossil record is that these spines were arranged in an opposite fashion, randomly on the main axis. Okay, now see, the telome theory is based on the fact that the leaves develop by the modification of pre-existing structure. Right? What telome theory told us that whatever today we find the leaves, these leaves were originated from the pre-existing structure. So what is the pre-existing structure? This is not explained by the particular telome theory. Whereas the ination theory is based on the concept of the de novo origin of the leaves. That is, they were originated independently. Okay, they were not originated from the pre-existing structure, but they are originated from the independent way. Okay, that is their evolution. That is the evolution of the leaves in the pteridophytes is the independent. Okay, it is not dependent on the other structure or the pre-existing structure. This is according to the ination theory. So here we find the contrast between the telome theory versus the ination theory. That the ination theory says that the origin of the leaves in the pteridophytes is the independent thing, while the telome theory says it's a combined thing and it's originated from the pre-existing structure. But whatever the pre-existing structures are there, these are not explained by the telome theory. So we can consider the ination as a pre-existing structure as well, and these inations may have later give rise to the today's leaves, which are found in the pteridophytes, which are called as the microphallus leaves. Okay, so here we find the contrast between the telome theory and the ination theory, in which both are not on the similar lines. So from where these particular type of leaves, that is the microphallus leaves, were originated in the pteridophytes. Okay, now see in a Saudonia, okay, this is the plant, belongs to pteridophytes. It's irregularly disposed, tapered, and the pointed spines like inations were reported on the axis. Okay, so in the Saudonia plant, you will find on its axis there were the presence of inations. So all these intermediate form, okay, whatever the intermediate forms are there, why we are calling it as the intermediate forms? Because when we consider an earlier plant like Cooksonia plant, okay, Cooksonia plant, we have studied them in a telome theory. Then the Rhynia plant, these do not show the presence of the leaves, but whatever the fossilized plants were there earlier, the earlier primitive vascular plants, these primitive vascular plant shows the presence of the leaves-like structure that is called as the ination on its main axis. Okay, just for example, see in a zoosterophiles, the inations were devoid of any vasculature, which is considered as the first step. Okay, now understand this carefully. Whatever the fossil record we have from the zoosterophiles shows the ination, but these the ination do not show any vasculature. That is, the vascular system is typically absent. Now consider this particular first diagram. Here you will find the main axis. This is the main axis, that is the main stem of the plant, and here you will find an ination. the spine-like outgrowth. But the central line, which is showing the vasculature in the axis, this vasculature is do not have connection with these spines. Okay, whatever the spines are there, whatever the enations are there, these enations or these spines do not show the presence of the particular vascular bundle, that is the xylem and phloem. So whatever the vascular system is going right from the middle of the axis, these do not show any connection towards the earlier enations, which are this type of the enations were found in the gastrophiles. So you should carefully remember the example, that is the gastrophiles, and these gastrophiles shows the presence of enations, but they do not show any type of the vasculature. That means the central vascular system is not connected to the leaves. Okay, and this is considered as the first step in the evolution of the microphylous leaves, because these microphylous leaves earlier originated as the enations which do not have the vascular connection, hence they are described as a non-vascularized structures. So non-vascularized structures were called as the enations, were developed on the earlier plants, earlier primitive plants, which are called as the vascular pteridophytes, but they do not extend their vascularity towards the newly formed enations. Okay. Now, however, in the second step, what happened in the second step according to the enation theory? The exemplified asteroxylon, okay, so this asteroxylon plant is considered as the next in the evolution after the zoosterophiles. Okay, a trace of the vascular tissue arises directly from the protostele of the axis and enters the base of the enation. See, this is very important. Understand in this second diagram. See, here we have in the central axis the xylem and phloem, that is the vasculature, and this vasculature shows some stress towards the leaves, that is the enation. Towards the enation, it is showing some stresses, like just like the vascular connection is extending towards this particular enation, and this is considered as a second step. Now this the second step is found in the asteroxylon. Now each example is very important because you have to put the example to justify your statement. Okay, so gastrophiles are the first step in the evolution where there is a just formation of the enation and we do not have any vascular connection. But in the asteroxylon, what we find a trace of vascular tissue which is directly arises from the protostele. Okay, in the central region of the axis we have the protostele, and from this protostele there is a direct origin of this trace of the vascular tissue. Okay, and it is entering the base of enation. Here at the base of the enation it is entering. Okay, so you can consider it as a second step in which the vasculature is developing on these particular enations. Okay, here the enations are spirally arranged on the axis. See, in the second step, what do you find? On the axis, the enations were spirally arranged. Okay, that is they now showing the particular type of the arrangement. This is very important because if we find the particular definite pattern of the enation, this literally means the plant is adapting towards its internal structure. Okay, that is the anatomical feature is adjusted by these particular pteridophytes in order to achieve this particular vascularity in their leaves. Because in the earlier form, when we do not find any definite pattern of the origin of the enations, in these enation we do not find any vascular connection. So as these enations were in the evolution try to arrange themselves in a spiral way, they are generally tends to have the vascular connection from the central axis, because any definite arrangement internally can provide the good source of the other structures as well. That literally means whatever the central axis is there, which is comprised of the xylem and phloem, this xylem and phloem can provide the connection in the definite pattern. Okay, not randomly. And that is why this definite arrangement in the particular axis which is found in the asteroxylon is very important from the evolutionary point of view, because now the central axis is trying to giving the connection of the vascularity to the enations or say to the microphylous leaves. Okay, so what happened in the first step and what happened in the second step, you should remember it very carefully with the well example. Okay, so you have to put the example as well as like a gastrophiles and the asteroxylon. In the first step, we have the spine-like outgrowth, which is called enation, but they do not have any vascularity. In the second step, as in the asteroxylon, we find the stress of the vascular tissue, which is arising directly from the central protostele, okay, and which is going to the base of the enations, okay. And in the first step, we do not find any particular arrangement of the enations on the axis, but in the second step, we find the definite arrangement in the spiral way, okay. Now consider. Now in the final step, that is in the third step, the enations become elongated and flattened leaf-like, and the vascular stress grew up to the tip of the leaves. See what happened in the third step. Here the whatever the enations were there, they were got converted into the leaves-like structure. Okay. So leaves-like structure is here, and this leaves-like flat structure is having the vascular connection right from the protostele to the tip of the leaves. Okay. So this is how the vasculature is got developed in the three stages in the leaves of the pteridophytes. This is according to the initiation theory. This is according to the Bower. Okay. So Bower explaining this particular evolution through the evolution of the vasculature in the particular pteridophytes. The earlier primitive pteridophytes were showing the initiations and they are vascularized plant, but they do not show the vascularity extension towards the initiation. But in the second step, we find the some amount of the vascular trace which is found at the base of the initiation. But in the third step, we find the well developed vascular system which is present in the flat leaves like structure in these pteridophytes. Okay. Now see, in this way, the microphallus leaf, a single unbranched leaf trace arises directly from the protostele, were evolved in the lower Devonian period. Okay. So in the lower Devonian period, what we find is the origin of the microphallus leaves. And how you can explain the microphallus leaves? It's a single unbranched leaf trace, okay, which is directly arising from the protostele and which it has a direct connection with the protostele. Okay. So whatever the microphallus leaves today we find in the pteridophytes, they has a very particular kind of the origin in the pteridophytes. The theory which is best explain this theory is called as the initiation theory, and this initiation theory explains this particular origin of the microphallus leaves in a three steps. In the first step, we find the initiation but no vasculature. In the second step, we find the initiation and there is a presence of the vasculature at the base of the initiation. And in the third step, we find the well-developed flat microphallus leaves with the vasculature at the tip of the initiation. Okay, and this all happen in the lower Devonian period. And in the lower Devonian period, we find the presence of the microphallus leaves, which are now typically found in the pteridophytes. Now see, further, the elaboration of the microphyll with branch tips. Okay, now these microphylls also got evolved in the evolution, and these microphylls now showing the branching at the tip as well, like this. Okay, so the leaves are also getting modified, and they shows the branch tips in the early herbaceous lycopods. That is the Lacroquia. Okay, in the Lacroquia, you will find the initiations which are converted into the leaves, and the leaves were showing the branching at the tip of the leaves. Okay, can only be explained by the telome theory. Okay, so here we find the microphallus leaves, and later microphallus leaves also shows their modification on the by showing their branch tips. Okay, in the earlier herbaceous lycopods. Okay, if you find the if you study the lycopods carefully, in that we have studied the example of Lycopodium, you will find the branching at the tip. Okay, so this branching at the tip in the microphallus leaves were also the part of the evolution. But here in the initiation theory, what Bower explains, he explains the origin and the complete connection of the vasculature towards the initiation, that is finally towards the leaves. Right, now consider, see what is the significance of this particular telome theory or in relation with the initiation theory. Okay, now see, when you study the telome theory in relation with the initiation theory, you will come to know that the telome theory has certain drawbacks, but which are fulfilled by this particular initiation theory. Okay, now see, this telome theory portrays the origin and evolution of the sporophytes in the earliest known land plants. Okay, that is how these sporophytes are got evolved in these particular pteridophytes. Telome theory best explains this. Okay, because in the sporophyte of the earlier pteridophyte, you will find the well differentiated root, stem and leaves. Okay, so root, stem and leaf structures were shown by the pteridophytes, which is not shown by the bryophytes. So how this has occurred, this is best explained by the telome theory. Okay, but on the other hand, when you study the initiation theory is typically restricted to the initiations only, that is the microphallus leaves only. Okay, so on the one hand, you will find there is a complete we talk about the complete sporophyte of the pteridophyte. On the other hand, in the initiation theory, we talk about the microphallus leaves. Okay, now consider, see, the theory is based mostly on the accounts of the comparative study of the fossil as well as the living genera. Okay, that whatever the telome theory is there, this comprises both the fossil record, it considers the fossil record, as well as it considers the living genera to explain the various things in the telome theory, right, of the vascular plants. It actually explains the phylogenetic relationship between the fossil and the living plants, because as you already know, in the Cooksonia plant, in the Rhynia plant, we have connections with that of the present day pteridophytes. So whatever the fossils forms are there, these the fossils forms are compared with the living forms, and the telome theory tries to form the bridge between whatever the extension is there and whatever the present forms are there. So telome theory is actually giving the phylogenetic relationship between whatever we have in a fossilized form and whatever we have in the living form. So this is interesting, because this telome theory and the initiation theory, both when combined together, they are showing the complete evolution of the pteridophytes. In the sporophyte, on the one hand, when the telome theory fails to explain the origin of microphylus leaves, these microphylus leaves origin is typically explained by the innation theory, and rest of the sporophyte is best explained by the telome theory. So in and all, whatever the evolution is occurred in the pteridophytes, it can be best explained by using the two theories. The first is called as the telome theory, and second is called as the innation theory. Right now, see the five elementary processes we have studied in the last lecture, that is the overall topping, reduction, planation, the recurvation, and the syngenesis, gives the unified concept of the manner in which the evolution might have proceeded in the land plants. Okay, because in the last video lecture we have also convinced that all these five processes best explain how the various structures in the pteridophytes has got evolved. Okay, in a very nice way, in a very we can say in a very simplest way, it can explain how the earlier primitive pteridophytes may have got converted into the modern day pteridophytes. Okay, how the evolution of land plant takes place. Now, why scientists give so much stress on this particular step in the evolution? Because this is the step where the plants were actually moved from the water habitat to the land habitat. Okay, this is the conquest of land by the plant. So those plants which earlier only restricted to the water habitat, first time they came on the land. And that is why these are theories, that is the telome theory and the innation theory, are of very much importance, because this theory explains how these plants got acquired such a power that they left their primary habitat, which is called as the water habitat or the aquatic habitat, and they successfully grow on the lands. Okay, so by using all these five processes, the telome theory best explain how there is a evolution which is occurred in the pteridophytes. Okay, now see, these processes explains the simple and the lucid way as how the primitive land plants led to the evolution of both simple and the complex plants who are of today. Now see, this is very important. We are not talking only about the pteridophytes, because in the pteridophytes, first time we see the vasculature, that is the presence of xylem and phloem. Now from this pteridophytes, there is the origin of the gymnosperms. Okay, that is the more advanced form of the pteridophytes is the gymnosperm, and from the gymnosperm there is a formation of angiosperm, which is even more complex as compared to the gymnosperms. So all these are the vascular plants relate themselves to the innation and the telome theory, because the innation and the telome theory told us how the plants from the aquatics got converted into the land plants, and these are land plants called as the pteridophytes, which later give rise to the gymnosperm and to the angiosperm. So this crucial step of the conquest of land by the plant is very important, and that is why many theories regarding the transfer of the plants from the aquatic habitat to the terrestrial habitat is given at this particular point. Okay, that is the innation theory and the telome theory. Okay, now consider, moreover, these processes also provide the basis for interpretation of solving the morphological controversies of the different organs of the vascular plants. Okay, such as, see, the nature of the aerial portion of the plant body of the Ophioglossacea. Okay, so whatever the aerial portion were there, the aerial portions are generally the sporophytes. These are sporophytes were also aerial in the bryophytes as well. Okay, so whatever the Ophioglossacea members were there, these are showing the aerial parts. And how we explain the aerial parts? We explain the aerial parts by giving the telome theory, and telome theory is suggesting how the sporophyte were evolved. Now, when we talk about the bryophytes, in the bryophytes as well, as you already know, we have studied the Marchaceae, Anthoceros like things. They were also showing the sporophyte, which is aerial. Now, these are aerial sporophyte later got converted into the sporophyte of the pteridophyte. Now, this sporophyte of pteridophyte is not simple as the sporophyte of the bryophyte, because it shows the presence of root, stem, and leaves-like feature. So, these are particular morphological controversies. Whatever the morphological controversies were there regarding the origin of the aerial shoots. For example, the aerial parts of the bryophytes and the aerial parts of the pteridophytes were differ so much, because the pteridophyte shows the presence of well-developed root, stem, and leaves. So, how they got evolved? This can be best explained by the telome theory. Okay, and some part of it as well as by the innation theory, because innation theory is relating with the microphylus leaves. Okay, and microphylus leaves, as you already know, it's the aerial portion of the plant. Okay, so whatever the microphylus leaves are there are best explained by the innation theory, and rest portion is explained by the telome theory. So whatever the aerial portions were there in the earlier pteridophytic plant is best explained by these particular theories. Okay, so morphological controversies were solved by these particular theories. Okay, now see the anatomy of some species of the Medullosacea. Okay, Medullosacea, whatever the members of the Medullosacea were there, and the anatomical feature were shown by them, and the various question arises there how the new anatomical features arises, because whatever anatomy we found in the bryophytes, it is very different in the pteridophytes. So how these anatomical features were evolved in the pteridophytes, this is also best explained by these theories. Then the nature of the plant body of the cynopterid forms. Okay, so whatever the cynopterid forms were there, these are how these body were got created, how the morphological feature were possessed by these plants. This is also explained by these theories. Okay, so as you know, the initial, whether it's a Tilom theory or some portion of it, or say 10% of it, the initial theory, these theories best explain how the morphological and how the aerial portion have got created in the evolutionary processes by using these five processes. Various structures in the sporophytic body of the pteridophyte have got evolved. This is explained by the Tilom theory. Okay, now consider the evolution of the vegetative and the reproductive structures of the chordiatales. Okay, in the and the early conifers. Okay, so whatever the chordiatales were there and the early conifers is there. Conifer, as you already know, conifers are the groups of the gymnosperms. Okay, so whatever the vegetative and the reproductive structures which were evolved later in the gymnosperms, how they got evolved, this is also answered by these particular theories, because this Tilom theory tends to explain the aerial portions in the plants. Okay, whatever the aerial portions were there, these aerial portions were typically explained by the Tilom theory, and this Tilom theory hence have definite significance in the evolution, because this Tilom theory is not only restricted to the pteridophytes, later it got extended to the gymnosperm as well as angiosperm, because whatever the aerial structure we found in the gymnosperms and angiosperm, these are also relatable with the pteridophytes. So when the Tilom theory explains the aerial portion or the reproductive or the morphological structure, vegetative structures in the pteridophytes, these are also found in the gymnosperms as well. For example, conifers. So whatever the structures which are present, morphological structure or the vegetative or the reproductive structures were there in the gymnosperm, these are also be explained by using the Tilom theory. Okay, now see the phylogeny and the origin of the stamens and the carpels. This is very important. Now the stamens and the carpels were found in the angiosperm. Okay, some gymnosperm and the angiosperms. So stamens, as you already know, it's the male sexual organ, and the carpels are the female sexual organs, which are very well developed in the angiosperm. So how these reproductive organs are got created? So it's the reproductive organs phylogeny and origin is also traced back to the Tilom theory. Tilom theory also shows some light on these particular stamens and carpels. Okay, that how they got evolved, how they may have got evolved. Okay, now see, the theory explains in a satisfactory manner that the entire sporophyte is an axis that has underground portion called as the root and the aerial portion is called as shoot. Okay, so the Tilom theory has given a very satisfactory explanation for both the part, that is the axis, which is an aerial part, and then below ground we have the root, and above ground we have the shoot. Okay, so the root, axis and the shoot. Okay, these parts were very well explained, or say satisfactorily explained by the Tilom theory. Now the appendages of the shoots of the sporophylls, sporangia, sterile leaves are nothing but the modified parts of the shoot. So whatever in the shoot, whatever the structural differentiation we find in the shoot, these are nothing but the modified parts of the shoot. Whatever the shoot were there earlier, the aerial portion were there, this aerial portion is got modified and these have got converted into the sporophylls, sporangia, sterile leaves, etc. Okay, so these are theories. Okay, whether it is the Inertian theory or the Tilom theory has very much significance in this respect, that they are throwing light not only to the pteridophytic evolution, but it extend to the gymnosperm and the angiosperms as well. So gymnosperm, whatever the structural features or the morphological features were shown by the gymnosperm and angiosperm, can also be explained by using the Tilom theory or the Inertian theory. Okay, so right from the below ground parts, that is the roots or the rhizome, to the above ground parts like a shoots, and different modifications of the shoots were very well explained by these particular pteridophytes. Okay, so this is how we can you can trace the importance of these theories, that is the Tilom theory and the Inertian theory. So one thing is important here from the UPSC mains examination point of view. UPSC may ask you to compare between the Inertian theory and the Tilom theory. Okay, so you should be able to compare the Inertian theory and the Tilom theory. On the other hand, you should be able to explain the both the theories together to explain the origin and evolution of the pteridophytes by using the five processes and the origin of the microphylous leaves. Okay, or the UPSC can simply ask you individually the Tilom theory or the Inertian theory. Okay, with the limited words. Okay, you have to get in a limited words you have to explain the Tilom theory, and in limited words you have to explain the Inertian theory. See the limitation. Okay, so the limitations were also there for the Tilom theory. All through the Bower recognized the two kinds of leaves, that is the microphylous and the megaphylous leaves. The Inertian theory explains the origin of the microphylous leaves only. Okay, so microphylous leaves were only explained by these theories, that is the Inertian theory, and these microphylous leaves were best explained by this initiation theory, but the megaphilous leaves were left as it is. Okay, so you should remember the significance as well as the drawbacks of the theories. Okay, and you should be able to give the merits and demerits as well, because it is they just change the heading. It is they were called as the merits and demerits, or in the other words you can say the limitation or the significance. Okay, so by studying these the two theories, you can create the any type of answer to be written down in the UPSC mains examination. Just you should understand the question. Okay, first you understand the question, and according to that you should write down the answer. Okay, so this is all about this topic. Okay, thank you very much for watching this video. Please like this video, share this video with your friends who are studying the botany, and if you haven't subscribed to the Botany Option channel yet, please subscribe to the Botany Option channel for UPSC examination. Again, thank you very much for giving your time. See you in the next video lecture. Thank you.